watching the Fox 5 Morning News at 7.
As school begins, so do sports, and that means it's a perfect time for a checkup for your kids. With us right now is Rhina Paredes-Greeson. She's the co-founder of the Eric Paredes Save a Life Foundation. Rhina, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We were just talking about how many kids over the years you guys have helped out. And when you told me this, you gave me chills. Tell the folks how many people we screened and what else.
In 8 years, we have screened almost 28,000 kids, ages 12 to 25.
Wow.
And we have found at risk 202 children to date.
So without those screenings, those 200 kids, I mean, at risk is what it's all about. Tell us Eric's story, because you had a tragedy, unspeakable tragedy, and you turned right around almost immediately and decided, you know what, we're going to help other people so that nobody else has to suffer through this pain. Tell us Eric's story, if you could.
Eric was my 15-year-old child, healthy, vibrant. He was a two-sport athlete. He played football and he wrestled. And one day, as we were packing to go on a family vacation, I stepped out to go to a doctor's appointment, and Eric's dad came home 20 minutes later and found that Eric had collapsed and died on our kitchen floor. I was the last one to see Eric alive, and he had no signs or any symptoms that I could have determined that they were life-threatening.
Because looking back now, it's easy to ask, were there anything that was slightly off? And there were no symptoms. This was a perfectly healthy kid who was playing sports, and this just happened?
Well, looking back, I think there were some signs and symptoms that I didn't know.
Like what?
Like shortness of breath, for example.
Yeah.
I took him to the doctor. He had shortness of breath, and he was given an inhaler. Looking back, if I would have known what the signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest are, I would have asked for an EKG to determine if there was any cardiac abnormality.
Yeah.
But
and you're a nurse.
I am a nurse.
So you probably would have known these things, but
right.
When did the shortness of breath start? At what age? Was it just always?
With sports, but what I'm trying to say is that the kids have different signs and symptoms that parents think they're just normal, like dizziness or shortness of breath or rapid heartbeat. So if a child has lived all their lives with these symptoms, this child does not know what the difference is. They don't know that that's abnormal.
That's their normal life.
Exactly, that's their normal life.
How many kids does this affect? What are the numbers that we're talking about here? Because this is quite prevalent throughout the country.
It is. Approximately 7,000 kids die every year in the United States from sudden cardiac arrest.
That's incredible.
Yes.
It's an incredible statistic.
Yes. So if you think about this, I picture it as 2 different high schools combined.
Oh my God.
That's the amount of kids that will die every year.
I mean, you see, look, see, I'm not even kidding. When you say this to me, it hits at the core of any parent. The organization that you guys have, you give out these free screenings, and we talk about this every year. These free screenings are lifesavers. Tell us what the screenings are all about and who can participate.
Right. So you have to remember that when you take your child to their well checkup or sports physical, the EKG is not part of their physical, because there's a myth that sudden cardiac arrest, it doesn't happen to kids. Yeah. So it doesn't cover. So what our foundation did, we started this organization where we have about 6 cardiac screenings every year. They're free to the public. And we do a risk assessment, cardiac risk assessment, cardiac questionnaire. We do an EKG, and we have a consultation with the cardiologist. Every child does that. And if the cardiologists think that they need an echocardiogram, we do an echocardiogram right on site.
The key here, it's important to get this screening. If your kids are playing sport over, but get the screening, even if you don't see any signs, or just go get the screening.
Absolutely. Think about this. We screen for eyesight, scoliosis, but we don't screen the major organ.
Yeah.
It happens to athletes, but it also happens to kids that don't do any sports. So anybody who has a child 12 to 25 needs to get screened.
You're doing such great work, not just as a nurse, but obviously with this. Let's get the information up again. Free heart screenings happening Sunday, August 26th at Otay Ranch High School, right there on Olympic Parkway in Chula Vista. It's open to all youth ages 12 to 25.
Correct.
Which is fantastic.
Correct.
All the information is on fox5sandiego.com. So get over there, parents, and get this done now. Rhina, we thank you, and what you're doing for the memory and the legacy of your son, Eric, is impressive, and we thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much, Earl. Thanks for having me.
Time now for your morning